people ask me, Chris, what are you doing to excite the next generation about the guitar? And we're a small company. It's a big world, so we have a limited budget. But we're very fortunate, I think, because Martin guitars have, since 1833, been so much a part of modern music, whether it was modern music in the 1800s or the 1900s or now the 21st century. I have met younger players who are very excited about playing the guitar, learning how to play the guitar, and learning about the music. And that's when I begin to say to myself, okay, we're probably more fortunate than anybody else in this business, because if they have a curiosity about where the music came from, and they begin to do some research, and they look at their current guitar heroes, and they read a review by someone who is popular today, and that person says, well, when I was younger, one of my influences was Bob Dylan. And this young player says, Bob Dylan, I've heard of him. Let me go do some research on who Bob Dylan is. So they go and they find an interview that Bob Dylan gave. And Bob Dylan says, well, when I was younger, one of my influences was Woody Guthrie. And so they go, I wonder who Woody Guthrie is. Let me go find out who Woody Guthrie is. And they go, and every time they encounter these people, if they're curious and astute, they're going to notice that they happen to be playing Martin guitars.
My name is Dick Boak, and welcome to Martin. We're down in the Sawmill. This is the rough production area where the raw lumber would come in and get processed. We try to stay at least a year ahead of our production, and that's why there's so much lumber here. And in back of me is genuine mahogany and Spanish cedar that we use for our neck stock. These will be cut into parallelograms that you can see over here. The parallelograms are then marked out using the templates, and these will be bandsawed into what we call neck billets. Wood often comes to us at about 30% moisture content. And what we do is we air dry it for a period of time and then bring it down to about 20% moisture content through air drying, at which point it would go into the kiln, and very, very carefully the moisture content is brought down to a stable range of about 10%. And then it'll come out of the kiln and back into the acclimating room where it is air seasoned to about 6%. And 6% is where we want it in order to start work on a guitar. 6% is about as dry as you'd find in the United States. We want a situation where a guitar would bring on moisture, not give it off. When wood gives off moisture, it's prone to cracking. When it takes on moisture, it kind of stabilizes in the environment that it's intended to be used in. So the green machine that you're seeing is called a resaw unit. We've got a couple of them. And what we do with the resaw units is run mahogany lumber, specially selected quarter sawn mahogany lumber through these machines in order to cut them into guitar sets. This is what we would call a flitch. And a flitch is a successive cutting of several pieces of wood. And they're cut in pairs, so the pairs would be perfect book matches. From these book matches, we would mark out for guitar sets, either sides or backs. Now we're in the acclimating room. This room was built about a decade ago, and the problem that we had in our production was that we had pallets of raw wood sitting all over the plant, taking up space that could have been used to make guitars. And it became increasingly a problem as our production grew. And so this room was built, and as you can see, we can store a tremendous amount of wood in here. And this environment is kept to a very, very tight temperature and humidity setting. It's not unusual for the wood to sit here for a year or more before we would be ready to use it. Rosewood is usually wrapped in burlap to keep the moisture in, to keep it from drying out. And it has wax ends and comes in book matched sets from India. And as you can see, we have quite a lot of rosewood here. Once again, we're trying to make sure that we don't get caught without the wood. We usually have about a year's supply, at least, of Indian rosewood. Some of our woods are so valuable that we need to keep them locked in a cage. This is where we keep the Brazilian rosewood, the flamed mahogany, quilted mahogany, the flamed koa wood sets. They're so valuable and so precious that they need to be locked up. A lot of these woods we can get only at certain times, and some of the woods, like Brazilian rosewood, we can't get at all. All of our spruce tops are hand split and perfectly quarter sawn. It's really critical to the stability and the tone of the guitars. This is Italian alpine spruce, and we refer to it sometimes as Stradivari spruce. It's a beautiful spruce, and we're getting ready to make a limited edition for Robbie Robertson, as well as the Kingston Trio 50th anniversary commemorative. Okay, so this is one of our CNC machines. These machines are cutting 12 necks at a time and then exchanging with 12 more necks. The idea here is that if we digitize a neck that has been hand-shaped, we can recreate it over and over again with tremendous accuracy, and that's what we're doing. It does a beautiful job. Okay, this tool is called the Micron, and this is a very miniature high-speed router that is cutting the fret slots as well as the inlay areas on our fingerboards. The nice thing about the Micron is that it can dive in and cut a slot that is called a pocketed fret, leaving a clean edge on the edge of the fingerboard, as you can see. This is really a tremendous improvement over the old method, which was to cut the slot all the way through and then have to deal with an open fret end. It's kind of like having a bound fingerboard. So this CNC machine in back of me is set up to cut front blocks, either the mortise and tenon block or the dovetail block that we use to join the sides together. Serial number would usually appear here. The CNC machine is just an ideal tool for repetitive machining like this. And over here, this machine is cut up to put the crowning and the taper on all of our fingerboards. It's also drilling the holes for the mother of pearl position dots.
So here they're putting in rosettes. So after the top and back or the top is joined on the clamp carrier, everything is sanded smooth, and then it comes over here. And then they'll cut the channels in on the machine, then hand install every rosette. The hard part is keeping them in sequence. They use this light, it's called candling, something like this, where they'll find a knot or a pocket that's hidden. Without the light, you can't really see it. Once you get it into the light, you can see the variations in the wood grain. And not all of those things are defects, but they are characteristics, and they affect the grading of the tops.
And this is the matching station where the book matches of East Indian rosewood, and this is a pair of sides, are matched up with an appropriate colored back. These guitars are pretty precious, and we want the back and side material to be a very, very good match for color and grain. So this glue wheel was put into use sometime around the turn of the century. We think around 1902. The legend is that Frank Henry Martin, C.F. Martin III's father, found it in a railroad yard that it was part of an old railroad switch. But it was modified to be a consecutive glue wheel. And the idea is that a worker can work repeatedly in a circle, and by the time she gets around one revolution, the glue is dry and she can work continuously gluing up tops and backs. So there's lateral pressure as well as downward pressure. So this is our new laser machine, and this is also an exchanger where two backs can be done at a time. And here the backs are held down by a vacuum, and then the perimeter cut, which is slightly oversized, is cut out using a very high intensity laser that gives us a perfect cut. So the laminate material for the X series guitars is called high pressure laminate, and we hate to use the Formica word, but it's very much like Formica, very high quality laminate, and comes in a variety of figured wood finishes. And we're cutting this material here on a multicam machine that's an overhead CNC router.